Well, guys, welcome to Biomace Live. We're happy that you guys have just now tuned in. So, like I mentioned, social shaming, you might be asking yourself, just what is social shaming anyway? And and why do I care about it? And I kind of had that same thought, like, well, what is social shaming? As I've done some research, I found that, social shaming, like I said, covers everybody, every culture, every ethnicity, every age, generation. So here's a little snapshot of kind of what we're going to be covering over the next couple of weeks.
Awesome. So let's start by offering up one major social fact. So did you know that it's estimated that we see 3,000 advertisements per day, often a barrage of messages resulting in image dissatisfaction?
Wow, that's huge. Now, I didn't realize that 3,000. Yeah, and I was doing some research and completely right. I was like, wow, that's a big statistic.
That's a big number of advertisements.
I know, crazy.
And that's just scrolling through Facebook and Instagram, just little things that hit you and you don't really absorb them when you're looking at them.
Yeah, you're right.
So, not to mention that personal image and social media are connected in such a way that it can influence the way that we view ourselves to meet the opinions of those around us.
Oh, yeah.
And we're living in an age where consumption of social media is a daily consumption, or daily compulsion, rather.
Yeah.
And the viewing of others and other people's lives now happens on a massive level.
It does, and you're right. I mean, it's a daily compulsion, just to continue viewing,
Right.
and just consuming.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And from Facebook to Snapchat and all the rest, we consume with our eyes.
We do, we do.
Images upon images, content upon content, which has a direct effect on our minds and how we view both our social media as well as our physical lives. For instance, a teenager following Kylie Jenner may have the desire to have her particular body shape, or believe that Kylie's body and her lips and just face, etc. are completely perfect. Over time, this can gradually affect this person's mind, this person's self-esteem, to deductive reasoning that, well, Kylie's body is what society deems as perfect, or and my body is not like hers. Then that means that I'm not perfect and that I don't fit into society, and this is the thinking that leads to what has been called image shaming, which again, as Denver mentioned, is not gender specific in any means whatsoever.
No, you're absolutely right.
Everybody.
And it's across the board. Like, even men, I mean, we go through it too, We'll look at advertisements, and maybe it's not so much body. Sometimes it is, like athleticism and things like that, like muscle building, but it's more like possessions for us. Yeah, it's more possessions. We feel that I would not generally, I believe that the male audience would feel that by having a nice car or a nice outfit or whatever, or perfect hair, like she told me earlier. No, but like a big house. All these items are to attract the Kylie Jenner or fill in blank, Kardashian or whatever,
right.
Victoria's Secret model type of person.
Yeah.
And that means advancement.
Yeah.
But it's scary.
I can kind of really resonate. I chose not to wear any makeup today, which is especially on camera. It's just,
I didn't know.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, beautiful.
A total, step out of my comfort zone, because I think we do get so caught up and wrapped up in, doing it for the gram, or just kind of portraying this image of who of someone that we're not. And although, like, I love makeup and I love to dress up and everything else, I feel almost obligated to now, because if I don't, people won't accept me for who I am. So this, mask that I end up putting on is what I'm trying to show people as being my true self. But like, that makes it to when I take that mask off, I'm not comfortable with who I really truly am, because that's not accepted. Like, it's not good enough for society and for social media. And so I feel the need to kind of put this constant filter on, which just provides it I think just increases depression and anxiety and really lowers self-esteem. So I totally get it.
And I like the word that you used, obligation, because it's not so much like you should do this, it's you need to do this in order to be this person or to have this person like you or these people accept you.
Yeah. Right. That's a good point. You know, it's like social image. So let's kind of go into that a little bit. If you guys are, by the way, if you're just now tuning in, we're talking about social shaming, and I want you to click share this broadcast out right now because someone's going to want to hear it. I have Tiffany and Sophie with me, and you know, we're kind of moving into social image and its perception. Social image covers, like we said, many different perceptions, such as like visual, psychological, emotional. It's specifically how a person views his or her image, you know, and appearance in general, like you mentioned earlier. It's kind of like an obligation, and to help them, you know, so to help boost their confidence, they will find or try new ways, you know, to look more attractive, to mask, you know, this so-called flaws, which they're not flaws. They're not flaws at all. You know, but nevertheless, they don't realize that these actions, all these actions, guys, they're based on the perception of others. And not the love and value that they have for themselves. Right. And that's the scary part about it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and even like the clothes that we wear or the cars that we drive. Like, I love my car, but it's like totally a college girl car. Like, you look at it, you're like, she's in college. And who we're
That's a compliment, by the way. You're in college.
I don't have a college girl car. I've got an old lady car, I think.
And like, who we're with, like the friend groups that we have and the people that we hang out with, have such a strong effect on our lives. Like, sometimes we hang out with certain people because we think that if we're around these people, people will think certain things about us.
Absolutely.
They'll associate with the things that they do or they have. Yeah, so it's motivated by a be seen mentality.
Wow.
It is, you're right. It's motivated by a be seen. You know, we want to be more seen. We want to be, you know, we want the, well, why do you think a society, no, let me say, why do you think we as humans want to be seen? You know, what is it that you think there's a disconnect, that we really need that, like we're gravitating to needing to be seen? What do you think it is?
I think it's a transition just in who we as a culture and as society has kind of just transformed into, especially with social media. I definitely don't remember being this worried about what I looked like or what I was perceived as probably 5 years ago. And you know, I was having a discussion with one of my best friends the other day, and she was really hurt because she'd recently found out that someone who had been hanging around her for a quite long time and someone who she really felt was a friend kind of just really opened up and let her know, you know, initially I started hanging out with you because on social media it looked like you had a lot. It looked like you know, knew a lot of people and you were in these great places and that you drove this nice car and had this wonderful place to live, and she wanted to be seen with that. And that really broke my friend's heart because what it meant was that you didn't see me, you know, but I think that that's just kind of what we've evolved to be. We're not, we see you, but we don't really want to see the real you. We want to see the pretty version of you. We want to see the edited, the highlight reel,
the filtered,
you know, the filtered highlight reel, and it's just, I think, kind of transformed our minds to feel like if we're not seen, that we are not important. We're not. We need that validation to, I guess, feel just, you know, more important about ourselves, and it's really sad.
It is sad.
So sad, actually.
This path, being on this path is sad.
Yeah,
being on this path is sad.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think?
I think like what you said, everything you said, I completely resonate with. Like you said, like with social media, there's been a huge disconnect between the physical and digital worlds. And before every broadcast, you know, we emphasize that the physical and digital worlds are the same thing. Of course, they're on different platforms. But ultimately, you should be the same person on Instagram and off of Instagram.
Right.
Unfortunately, with the rise of social media platforms such as YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, people have the opportunity to show themselves in a way that, of course, is not really the way that they live every single day.
Right.
So people feel like they can use that as a medium to create a whole new person for themselves. And that's why, you know, like you said, like there's situations like that where I want to be friends with you because it looks like you dress nice and so on and so forth. Like, I've had people at school come to me and they're like, oh, you, obviously you're always having fun, you're always with your friends, you always dress nice. I'm like, I really don't. You should see me at home.
Right, exactly.
You know, but it's not so much that I'm trying to show myself in another light. If it were any other person, I feel like, you know, definitely I've fallen in that pit where like, oh, maybe I should show myself in this light, and I'm really not like that.
Yeah.
But it could just be people on the other side where they're looking at you and they don't make that connection where you're the same person offline or online.
Right. And I think that's what probably increases us to continue to put on those filters, because when people do kind of find out who you really are, there's almost a level of rejection there, like, oh, well, but I thought this, and it's like, no, I never really, you know, portrayed myself to be this. This is just kind of what you perceive based off of the things that you saw, and this is an issue that we all have in common.
We do.
You know what I mean? Like, when we follow people that, you know, we do not know personally, and we see all the likes and the followers and the attention that they get, you know, you just naturally kind of automatically begin to compare. You know, we begin to compare them to ourselves, and it's in this comparison that the integrity of our own self-image starts to crack.
I love that.
You know?
Yeah,
I like
it's
that.
a two-way thing. It's perception and what you do on your side.
Right, exactly. I love what you just said there.
Oh, yeah.
Perception and production.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's good.
That's good. Really good.
Yeah.
That's really great.
Yeah.
Our integrity does begin to crack.
Yeah.
And
Naturally, and as we peer like into their lives, our lives and ourselves are just no longer look as good by comparison. Naturally, like, you know, my smile isn't as wide, or my hair isn't as cool, and my body isn't as perfect, or, you know, my car or my home isn't as luxe, and, you know, it doesn't look like those pictures that are on Instagram who really takes those pictures? Like, where do those pictures come from? Is that really your car? Is that really your house? Are you really on vacation? Where'd you get that picture?
Like, did you hear about, it was in Florida that they had, come and take a picture with my helicopter kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
Where it was like, you could pretend that it was your helicopter, and they had people literally drove down there just to take pictures with the helicopter that they could claim was theirs, and then post the photo on Instagram.
How much did they pay to do
bad.
It was free, so you can guess how many people showed up.
Yeah.
But I mean, just think about it. They got up that morning.
I know.
They got ready. They got dressed. They planned their outfit. They drove all the way over there just to take a photo, and post it online and say, "This is the kind of person that I am, and this is what I own."
Man, that's sad.
So everything that Tiffany and Denver have just said is so true. And all of these phrases are things that would make a person feel insecure in regards to their own self-image. And it's such a complex issue. It's so multifaceted, made of by different elements, and it's a sad fact that personal image is so imperative in our society, especially as it relates to social media status.
Yeah,
so
you're right.
Things like Instagram, especially where you can see how many followers people have.
That's true.
And it has the power to define the social standard as well as the people in many different ways. So, like, for instance, our society promotes that the ideal perfect image is a nice car, a Lambo, you know, a big mansion or home or a beautiful home, a trophy wife or husband, you know, just fill in the blank here. Anything that is desired by society is something that you should have. But the truth is that our society itself can never determine what is perfect in terms of self-image. Society doesn't determine anything. It's what we choose when we say, oh, society wants this. It really doesn't. It's what you think society wants. It's the materialist things, you know, car, home, trophy wife, etc., that are leveraged by our society that we live in because they attract a larger audience.
That's right. That's a good point. You know, it is, you know, like society, it can never really determine what is perfect. You know, it's those materialistic things that they're leveraging because they draw in the high, you know, a larger audience. I mean, it's like we see it all the time on magazine ads, but, you know, then on social media ads, you know, I mean, they have like Victoria's Secret, what is it, their once a year big show, fashion show. I mean, you know, that's a good example. I mean, and now all these girls, but this is so old, but it's still relevant today. I mean, all these many girls are, you know, aspiring to be that thin so that they can mirror that because they believe that is what's supposed to be the standard.
Yeah. Well, and even, you know, like now, and speaking of just, you know, the Kardashian era, like now it's, you know, having, you know, enhanced body parts. Like that's the thing. Now it's, you know, being, you know, thick or having, you know, big breasts or big butt or thighs or whatever, big lips. The Kylie Jenner challenge or whatever, where they stuck their lips in a bottle because they want them to blow up and be real big, and end up looking actually a little bit probably more ridiculous than what they anticipated on prior to the challenge. And I think even just you know, I know I do it all the time. I will sit there and I can have a full face of makeup on and have 10,000 people tell me that I'm beautiful throughout that day. Yeah. But then before I post a picture, you know, my raw image of myself is just not good enough. I've spent 30 minutes editing it and taking out bags under my eyes. I can change my eye color, which I have hazel eyes, I don't have to, but I can add lipstick if I, you know, my lips look a little dry, and I'm guilty of doing that. I'm guilty of kind of going through those motions, or, you know, kind of staging a photo to make it look like I have something, or look like I love myself and I'm enjoying my life, when in actuality I may turn off that camera and I may cry myself to sleep at night. And the idea that is who I really am is too much for me to put that truth of myself in front of society for fear of that rejection and not living up to the standards that society has set
fear of
before us.
rejection, and also just fear of that you might be seen as a failure, but you're not. I mean, you know, we all go through these struggles, but boy, if we start talking about our struggles, what does that sound like to us? It sounds like a state of defeat. But it's not. It's just life. It's what we're, I mean,
I mean, like, kind of like what Tiffany said. Exactly what you said, like, we like to stage photos, and it's not just a girl thing. And I learned that, you know, being friends with guys in high school, they do the same exact thing. Of course, they don't, you know, spend 30 minutes doing makeup. But one thing that my guy friends used to like to do is, you know, I go to Prestonwood, and a lot of the people there have really nice cars.
Right.
And they'd be like, hey, dude, you know, take a picture of me in front of this really nice car and then post on Instagram. And he's holding keys, and obviously the car's not his.
Right.
And it would be, you know, kind of ridiculous in the moment. But then I'm thinking back, I'm like, so why were they doing that? Because they did eventually post a photo.
Yeah.
And they continue to, like, you know, hold the joke up. And of course, my friends knew that it wasn't real.
Right.
But anyone else following him would have really
doesn't
thought.
know. Yeah, and that's what matters. It's not the friends. It's the people who aren't your friends.
Yeah, and it's with boys and girls. It's the same thing. Of course, it's just manifested in different ways.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. And guys, so hey, if you're just now tuning in, we're talking about social shaming. I want you to click share this broadcast out right now. Show us some love, because we're really going deep on how vast social shaming is, and how society has created this like vacuum for us to just to stay in this constant state of complacement and you know, and unsureness about ourselves. And so someone's going to want to hear it, so share this broadcast out. So, you know, that's a great point. And we begin to see, like, you know, people who have no self-image issues at all, you know, no self-image. Like, there's a person that probably saw that Instagram post of that kid, you know, Lambo or whatever's behind him. Maybe it's a Tesla. And he's like, I'm coming, you know, he totally, that morning he woke up, he got a brand new car for his birthday. It's not new, but it's like, you know, 5th gen. And you know, little old, but it's all good. Still like a part of the family. Anyway, and he's like, yeah, and then he sees this Instagram post, and he doesn't have any issues, but then when he sees that Instagram post and he goes to school with this kid, he's like, oh man, he starts to feel insecure about the possessions or clothes, or even the person, maybe the girlfriend. Maybe he has a really great girlfriend, and then he's like, he sees this kid and knows him in class. He's like, oh man, that's my competition. So he starts to feel unsure about his girlfriend, which is totally normal on his end, on the physical end. But on the social end, all these things are manifesting, you know. And it's all created by these materialistic images that social media and that, you know, us as people were leveraging, you know, just to portray a false image. It's constantly, you know, and, you know, it's this constant state of like social shaming styled advertisements. Right. You know, we don't see that it's shaming, but it's self-shame, right? It's creating a self-shame. It's things that we start thinking like, what we have, how we look, what we wear or who we're with, it's not good enough.
Right.
It's not good enough. And the reason, it's kind of like a selfie society that creates self-shaming, It's the way they flaunt, what they're doing on social media. It directly affects both the person posting and that kid that's viewing, And I see it all the time in business. Just like in my own industry, just as a guy, I started comparing myself to, in fact, it happened a couple of months ago. I started watching like Tony Robbins and Gary Vee, and every morning I would watch one of his inspirational videos, and I realized that, okay, for the first few days, it was good. I get good information, but then day 4, day 5, day 6, I started to pivot away. I started to pivot personally away from just the value of the message, and then comparing where I was in life. And I was like, well, I've watched this many videos, and I'm still here. So what am I not doing? What am I not doing? What am I not doing? And then for the next week or 2 weeks, I realized, man, I was really, my self-image and my self-respect and value were just that integrity was being cracked. Because I was watching something that was really okay, wasn't bad, wasn't like somebody shooting up or doing drugs or, whatever, but it was very good by society standard because it was all self-help. But because I wasn't progressing, because this is just where I was, it wasn't, I was comparing, and it was counterproductive. It was hurting me. And I started feeling insecure, and I was like, oh my gosh, why is this happening? And I started I was thinking, okay, what's going on in my life? Where are these? And then I realized it was these simple videos that their purpose is for us to gain self-help, to gain, better understanding of milestones that we should be seeking. But these milestones are society-based milestones. Right. They're achievement-based milestones. To stay inside this system of consumption and control, not self-control, not controlled by me, but controlled by the industry.
Right.
And I was like, oh, and I had to stop. And when I stopped, I was like, okay, hold on. Where am I, and what's valuable to me? And I was able to really kind of do some self-reflection. And I got back into centered, but I was like, wow, I can't believe that that's how many of us live. I mean, I have so many business partners that they are on this constant corporate ladder of achievement, and the ladder is not a ladder, it's a treadmill.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
They're not going anywhere, and they're not going to get anywhere.
Right.
And they're just going to consume and consume and consume and consume. And the more they try to consume, the more big brands, social media, mainstream, society, government are going to go, oh, the iPhone 8's coming out. The iPhone 10's coming out. The Lexus, this version's coming out.
Right.
The new Kardashian feature is coming out. Whatever it is to keep us addicted.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I've done a lot of self-reflection over the last few months, and I've definitely had to kind of step back away from social media when I feel that insecurity kind of really sitting inside of me, like not just kind of this, every now and then this little like, well, look at what she has, or but when you really start to live like that every day, all day, every day, and you start to analyze everything, or you spend hours upon hours looking at social media, and everything now is like hashtag goals. If someone has a nice car, hashtag goals. If someone has a nice relationship, it's what it looks like on social media, hashtag relationship goals, and hashtag hair goals, hashtag body goals. It's like but these are goals that you haven't really set for yourself, and not that there's anything wrong with, looking up to people who you genuinely feel a connection with, you genuinely feel some kind of, maybe the spiritual understanding with, that you feel like you might be able to benefit by modeling something in some way, shape, or form that they've done with their life that's been successful for them.
Yeah.
But when you really truly start to take everything that you're seeing on social media and across the digital space and kind of change who you are as a person in order to accommodate the needs of these people who you don't really truly know, that's when there becomes a real true problem. And so there's a lot of times when I've had to completely step away from social media in order to kind of get back to who I am. And I realized during that period, I feel so free. I don't worry so much about like the makeup that I have to wear. I don't worry about being seen or who's doing what. I have a good friend of mine, poor girl, I get on her all the time because she will sit on social media all the time and be like, we should be out because look, these people are out, or oh, well, look at her and look at her. And when that becomes your way of life, like you've completely lost sight of who you are. And you think about, you know, like I said, 5-6 years ago, I didn't care what kind of car I drove as long as I had a car. You know, I was definitely more humble. If I had to, you know, take a bus to get to wherever, I wasn't worried that somebody would see me and snap a picture and like show the world, or, you know, the world who's my friend, what I'm doing or how I'm not doing well at that particular time. When I'm doing so low or when I'm not doing good, or you lose your job, you're so worried about it, and the pressure of thinking that everyone knows your business, everyone can see, I think is what drives you even deeper and deeper into those securities, which is, you know, created, unfortunately, this culture that we have now. So it's crazy just trying to be perfect all the time, but and we're overwhelmed in a world of created perfectionism. It's crazy. From comparison to comparison, you know, we're trapped with only one way out. And at the end of the day, that's through the identity that God has created within us. Every unique feature, gesture, characteristic, flaw is perfectly designed for us to live, just truly live a life of authenticity and beauty.
Yeah, just kind of touching on what Tiffany said, social media has really opened up a window into our lives. And we like to put a filter over that window. You know, we feel it's an obligation. And it's definitely an invasion of privacy, but it's an invasion of privacy that we enjoy.
That's good.
Right.
That's
We're
really
like,
good.
oh, I like people knowing, you know, what I wear on the weekends and who I'm with. And you're having other people set goals that you should be setting yourself.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? With different standards, of course. Definitely not with the social standards that we have today. So, and I just love what Tiffany just said, but we all have a tendency to be a little insecure, or really insecure in some cases. But God leads us to see the value in us and who we are created to be through His social society.
That's right. His social society, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. His.
And He leads us to value others in our life and to value the lives of the other people that are in our lives, and value our own, and not defined by what they own or who they are in society, but defined by who God is to them. So is God first in their lives, or are they the God in their own life? And that's what Philippians 2:3 teaches us. It just talks about how we shouldn't do anything for our own selfish ambition, but rather humble ourselves and just look at the standards that God set for us and say, instead of, you know, looking at relationship goals, hair goals, you know, body goals on Instagram, what are the goals that God set for us in the Bible? You know.
Yeah, that's real good.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's really great. Well, guys, you guys have laid on some pretty awesome facts and information. If you guys are just now tuning in, we're about to wrap it up. We appreciate you joining the broadcast. Please click share right now. Share the broadcast out before it's over. We really appreciate that. So, you know, I really love what both of you conveyed, you know, about the goals, setting goals, and then just being transparent and being authentic. I really love that. You know, I had just this, I mean, I don't know if it was a God moment, but something came to me this morning. I was thinking about, okay, you know, like society has completely removed the human element. I mean, completely removed the human element. And I saw this movie, and it reminded me of a movie that I saw, and I just want to like share this with you guys. It's a football movie, and it was like I watched it like I think it was like a few years ago. So here's a situation. They were like in the inner city championship, and they had this doctor, the team doctor, right? And so one of the players, key valuable player, he had to stay in the game. He was injured, so it was a pivotal point in the game, and it was like, you know, a timeout or whatever, or at halftime. And in order for this key player to continue playing, he needed this type of medication, like steroids, right, to keep him in the game. Well, it was a conviction moment because the doctor had a choice. So he didn't really endorse this idea to give this football player steroids, and because it was something a bit bigger. It was something more important. It was the human choice. So, and I was thinking about that moment, and I was like, you know, that moment, that's kind of like society. Like, that doctor on that team, maybe he was the team doctor, he was a part of the team, but he wasn't of the team, because he had an interest in the human being that was far greater than the actual interest in the team and the player, because his interest was in the human being because of his profession, right? And so even though he was on the team, he was a part of the team, he wasn't of the team. And you know, society has kind of created this condition. You know, the society kind of created the condition for that player that had to play no matter the condition. He had to be but the doctor's interest was in the human, not the condition. You know, and it reminded me of like Christ. Okay, so like Christ, and let's just like forget heaven, forget hell, and forget all that stuff. Let's just talk about the simple logic about Christ. So Christ, you know, he wanted us to move away from the conditions of society, to focus on the human, the element, right? Like the doctor did. So Christ, he was down, and he realized that, okay, everybody that's a human, they're a part of this society, right? And they're part of this game, right? Well, in order for us to get away from that, he had to introduce in human form a different way of thinking, the human component, right? And that's a lot like us in social media, you know, or just like in media, in our society, right? If we are like the player, always needing to compete, no matter the condition, no matter if it's a broken heart, no matter if it's a broken marriage, no matter if it's a layoff, no matter if it's whatever, fill in the blank here, if it's an insecurity, if we leverage what society gives us or the antidotes that society is making available for us, it's on a path of self-destruction. And it's on this path that society wants to keep us in the game. But the game is not a human-based game. It's a game that's built around consumption, to keep the engine running for to keep the society in control, right? Yeah. But the doctor is like Jesus Christ, right? He's like, no, my interest is in the human element.
Right.
My interest is in you. And that's where we need to follow. We need to pivot away from what we're leveraging, the antidotes of society that they're offering us, and we need to leverage, you know, a Christian belief in our human, in who we are created to be, you know, who we are as a person. When we do that, we won't have to compete in this world anymore. Mm-hmm. We don't have to be a part of it. We don't have to compete in this game.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of like, you know, like Zacchaeus, or like the rich man that came up to God.
Yes, that's exactly the rich man that came up to God. I remember thinking about that.
He looked past everything, you know, his nice robes, and probably, I mean, God knew everything that man owned, probably down to his last penny.
Absolutely.
And they said he was a rich man, so obviously he was very wealthy, and God looked past that and looked at the substance, looked at the human, looked at his condition, the condition of his heart, spiritually.
Yeah.
And God doesn't look at what we wear, how we do our makeup, how we do our hair, what kind of car we drive. Right. He looks at the condition of our heart, and that's ultimately what matters in the end.
Yep. That's right, and that's what should matter to us.
That's true.
Right? That's what should matter to us, and it doesn't mean that we can't have nice hair or a nice car, but if we're leveraging those materialistic things to fill a void of insecurity, then we're going to be on this constant path that society has created us to stay in. And it's a self-shaming path. It's a self-shaming. We are in a constant state of being shamed. We're shaming ourselves because we don't live up to what society says, their standards, right? And it's destructive.
Super destructive. You can't be afraid to log off.
You can't
log off.
That's
if
right.
You need to take a break.
And log on. Log on to
Exactly.
yourself.
Yeah.
Log on to who you are and be authentic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Be authentic.
Absolutely.
Don't take pictures of someone else's car with keys.
Don't be afraid to ask yourself why you're doing certain things.
Exactly, motive.
And sometimes we don't even realize our own motives. You know, sometimes I look at clothes, I'm like, why do I want to buy that? I don't really like it, but I think other people will like
That's
it.
right. That's right. And final point, don't beat yourself up because we are born into this place.
Yeah.
There are billion-dollar industries and political systems that are put in place and that are staying in place because of this society. We don't have control over it. That's the reality. But we do have control over one thing. Owner, operator, us.
Absolutely.
So don't worry about it. Don't beat yourself up and don't stress out and don't feel guilty if you go and buy something and you realize, man, I shouldn't have bought that. Just be thankful that, hey, I realized the motive behind it. Let me pivot away the next time.
Absolutely.
And as you continue to follow a path of pivots, then you're going to finally, you're going to bring yourself to this self-identity, who you were created to be, and it's going to be awesome.
Absolutely.
Right?
I couldn't agree more.
All right, cool. Well, guys, thank you for tuning in. If you're just now tuning in, hey, click share. I see some people. Click share. Share this broadcast out right now. We appreciate it. This is our first broadcast on a new series called Social Shaming. We're going to dive deeper into like body shaming and more, and social shaming and psychological shaming, and it's everything. It's going to be awesome. And we're going to do some spot interviews during the week, and it's going to be incredible. So if you're just now tuning in, rewind this so that you can watch it in its entirety and share this broadcast out. We appreciate it. And I'm so happy that I had Sophie and Tiffany on. You guys, incredible. You brought some awesome information.
Thank you.
Incredible, guys. Did you have a good broadcast?
Yeah. So much fun.
I know, me too.
Dialogue.
Yeah, great dialogue. And I'm gonna put this song back on. This is our boy Pray. His song is Pray, and we dropped his handles, his video in the comments below, so you guys check it out. Give him some Jesus love. Invite him to watch our broadcast, and we appreciate that. We appreciate you guys. So thank you guys so much. Guys, from our space to yours, have an awesome week, and we'll see you next time on Bob Meets Life. Take care.
Bye.
Hey guys, thank you, man.
Bye.
That was good. That was great. That was a good broadcast.
So, for sure.
Man.
Yeah, I was way more, probably a little more transparent than what I had initially planned.
Yeah, that was...
You have to be though.
Yeah. Well, and even just in thinking, like in my mind, I'm like, all right, I'm not going to wear any makeup, and my cameras, good point to prove. And then, you start thinking about it and really kind of going through the motions. It's like, I think when you can be a little more honest and be a little more transparent, like with yourself and with other people, it just kind of enables other people to...
Yeah, and what really stood out to me is like, it's not, we didn't create it, it's society. And this is like, I'm like in a state of conviction right now because, I work in mainstream media, I work in brands.
Right.
So what I do, like my daily job is to look at a Tiffany and look at a Sophie and go, all right, what is her insecurities? What is she like seeking? What is she doing? What is she wearing? What is she buying? And then I'm going, okay, so she's been buying this type of makeup. Okay, and she's been focused on this eyeshadow. Okay, so she must think that, she doesn't have good eyes or whatever. So there's an entry point. She's our model if we're gonna model this product. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? Just work for nonprofits all of my life? Because how can I go forward? I have to be a little bit careful because, one thing I was thinking about, before all of this, I was like, it was like, okay, if it's alcohol, is it cigarettes, is it bikinis, is it, you know, lingerie? Okay, well, those things I gotta stay away from, because obviously those are like bad things. Like, those things are not healthy. But now it's not. It's so much more.
Yeah.
It's like it's broken into like I said, like Tony Robbins, you know, Gary Vee. Those are great people.
Yeah.
But if I'm watching them and then I start comparing my life, and if I'm not really progressing,
right.
then it's counterproductive. It's killing me.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's the
I'm
same
like,
even
oh.
with, like, you know, you think about, you know, pastors or speakers or something like that. Like, I have a friend of mine, she's a speaker, and she looks at other speakers on social media and she tells me all the time, she's like, Tiffany, I don't mean to compare my life to theirs. I don't mean to look at them, but she naturally sometimes is like, well, they haven't done this and I've done this, and why have they gotten farther than I have?
Yeah.
Like, it's natural.
It's natural. It's natural.
And you don't want to be like that. Like, I
No.
don't want to be. I don't know if I'm jealous. I'm insecure.
I know.
That's how we determine our self-worth now. Look
Right.
at
Sure.
other people. It's
Yeah.
it's not so much self-worth like, oh, I think, you know, I'm a decent person. I think that I've accomplished a lot. It's looking at another person, you're like, okay, how am I in comparison to whatever this person has done?
Yeah.
And it's really sad.
So
Yeah.
it's crazy. It doesn't help. And having children, it's like, you know, I remember before social media. I know what it was like to live through before social media, and it's funny because I feel like now it's harder to kind of handle things that happen bad in my life, and I wonder, like, what was the shift? What happened? I used to be able to handle things with such grace and such care years ago, or at least just kind of, you know, things didn't affect me as much as they do now, and I definitely think it's because we live in such a social media society right now. Like, before social media, I didn't care about wearing the same thing twice and being seen in a picture or whatever, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, I didn't care about that, and now I'm like, well, I know I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna do this with my friends, but I wore this dress before. I can't wear it again because I already took a picture in this dress, and even though I took a picture last year, people are gonna scroll through my pictures, they're gonna see, hey,
Oh,
she
right.
wore that dress. You know, like,
I had to look through Dumber's podcast and like, did I wear this?
I do it. I'm speaking it because I know how it feels. Like, I do it all the time, and it's stressful.
You know what scares me the most though right now is relationships.
Oh gosh.
Because now as I like continue to like peel back the layers of all this, I'm like I realized that, you know, like when I was younger, it was just like the emotional connection, you know, the attraction. It was just totally fine. But now it's like, oh my gosh, if I don't find somebody like-minded, then I'm not going to be able to talk. We're not going to work because I'm on a completely different path to, like, my eyes are like open now to like what society has put a filter
really
over. Yeah, and it's especially like in Dallas because it's so, I mean, now, like over the past 4 years, it's such an entrepreneur startup society.
Yes.
I mean, there's so many young kids. It's so much. It's very young down there. I mean, the majority of the workforce are 20s and maybe early 30s.
Right, early
but
30s.
20s, I mean, like if you have a title account executive, you're guaranteed a job.
Right.
I mean, there's so many entry points, and they're all a part of. I mean, they're all like living at Sky House Dallas right now.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I know so many people, and they're just on this path and this ladder. The ladder is like, back when I was starting out, my ladder was, we saw a salary that we could achieve.
Right.
But now that salary is broken down and so diverse that it's a lower salary, and there's more ladders. There's more ladders.
Yes.
There's not just one ladder. There's like 15 ladders.
Yeah.
There's 15 ladders, and the salary's lower, so everyone's jumping on.
Right, and the expectation to like get up there is, I want to say there's a young girl who works at the company I work for now, and I guess they end up, you know, getting rid of her, but she came in to do one position, and I think she had just graduated from college or something, and she expected this salary that I was just like, I'm a seasoned professional, and I don't expect that salary. I would like to, but just reality. And she just was like, no, this is where I need to be. And it's funny because there's, I guess, also almost a sense of entitlement that kind of comes along with it, and the expectation, like, nope, this is what I need, and anything less than this is not good enough for me.
Yeah.
Which I think is just, again, it's just that society. It's crazy.
Society. That's right.
It's with those unrealistic expectations, because she was told, you know, if you get this job, you're going to have this car, and you're going to get this salary, you're going to get to live in this house.
Yeah.
And she got a very realistic punch in the face.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she ain't like it.
Yeah.
You know, we don't need that much to live on. I mean, really, it's just society that's always developing new things to keep us in this constant state of consumption, so that we're constantly working and
Just
missing out on, just like, I mean, and nothing, you know, it's like, there's that point that I realized, like, earlier, how, like, nothing's changed since when Jesus walked, you know, on earth. I mean, it was a society there as well. And in order for us to get away from society, he came in human form to show, hey, it's the human element. It's the human element. If I focus on the standards that this society has already created, then I'm just a part of it.
Yeah.
And it's the human element. And gosh, you know, I don't know. That's what we just have to focus on. You know, just us, and not buying into.
Right.
Yeah.
The hype that society has created for themselves.
That's right. Cool. All right. Well, hey, that was a little off camera, guys, but we'll see you next time. Take care.